Douglas Kemp from Regather.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Doug Kemp. I work for Regather. There's a nice slide just popped up there. Yeah, I'm going to talk about the Regather Farm really, and how that links in with Regather's sort of, value-driven work. And yeah, just give you basically some sort of description and stories from what we get up to at the Regather Farm, and how that fits in to what we're doing. So yeah, a bit of context. It's a 15-acre field that we rent. It's in the Moss Valley, just south of Sheffield, and at the moment we grow vegetables which we supply to the Regather box scheme. It's just a little note to some of the previous talks I listened in on briefly. Some of these sort of the new tech models for growing food, I think I've heard termed as the land sparing argument, where you're leaving land to be sort of to go wild, to be rewilded and producing food elsewhere. Whereas what we're doing with Regather at the moment is very much the land sharing side of that coin, and it's a traditional growing food in the soil outside kind of operation. So the field was an intensive arable field owned by the farmer who is still our neighbour. The field was purchased by our landlords several years ago, and we've been renting it from them since 2019. So this is our second year with vegetable growers on this bit of land. The Regather values that we sort of hold out and tell people about are terms that I guess we've already heard about today: local, seasonal, organic, and we always like to add in cooperative as well, because Regather's organised as a cooperative. We do everything cooperatively within our organisation, and we like to work very cooperatively with lots of other organisations, whether that's being part of Sheffood or working with our other local growers and other sort of actors in the food system in Sheffield. So I'll just go through the values quickly and how they relate to what we're doing at the Regather Farm. Local, it's pretty straightforward. All the produce stays local. We sell it all to our own veg box, which is a 15-minute drive from the farm, and then that food is distributed throughout Sheffield by our veg box delivery team. That's the crux of it really. It's very simple. I've been thinking a little bit more about this recently, because there's two sort of big areas of the vegetable growing where we're not so local, and it'd be great to get that changed. So it's something I'm thinking about for the future, but not something we're able to tackle right now. And that is the inputs which come from further afield, primarily compost. So, the fertility for growing the veg comes from compost that we buy in from elsewhere, and also seed. We source our seeds from companies based in the UK, but it comes from all over the place, including further afield in parts of Europe. That was all very evidently to the fore this winter with Brexit, etc., causing issues with seed supply. So yeah, having a more localized seed supply and compost supply would be great, because they're important parts of producing vegetables. So yeah, something for the future there. Next one, seasonal. Okay, so it's kind of by default really. Everything we grow has a really heavily seasonal aspect to it, mainly because we don't grow with extra heat or light at the field, and we don't have any significant cold chain storage either. So yeah, we grow it, it's ready at the right season for outdoor vegetable production. It goes to Regather in the veg box. It couldn't be simpler than that really. Growing the right varieties of vegetables at the right time in the right place with the right seed can help you get the most out of your season. Okay, so the main focus on the farm really is about the value organic, and organic is a legal term in some respects, and for us, we engage with it as a legal term through our certification of the site, which is carried out by the Soil Association. So we have to stick to organic principles and follow the standards that are set out in the legislation, typically not using pesticides, herbicides, chemical fertilizers or other contentious inputs. And we have to have very strict record keeping about what comes on and off the farm, whether that's compost or seeds or what we harvest, etc. And that gets us our organic license, and we get to say we're an organic certified business. However, the word organic could also have another implication in that it's a way of thinking about things more holistically, a whole sort of system approach, very ecologically minded, and that does underpin the organic standards that people like the Soil Association, use. But there is a broader sort of value driven interpretation of the term, and that's really key to what we do at the field. So we're making all our decisions like with a really big ecological sort of conditions attached to them. Like, is what we're doing going to harm or benefit the ecology of the field? And we do that all the time. And we don't always get it quite right, actually. There is definitely loads of things we could improve on, but that is sort of a crux to what we're doing. Essentially we're respecting and making space for all organisms, plants, insects, tiny soil protozoa, mammals, birds, etc. And that's fundamental to what we're doing on the land, and ultimately it's going to help us to produce food as well. The diversity of species brings like resilience to what we're doing, and it's more important than ever when we have changing weather that's responding to changing climate. So one of the key things we're trying to do is restore the soil to be more biologically active. I obviously mentioned earlier that it was an intensive arable field when we took over. So the soil basically, we need to sort of drag it back into good health, I suppose. So we've been using soil tests to see what we need to do to improve that, and then making the relevant amendments, which is basically lots of compost and some other mineral additions at the moment. So that should bring the soil back into health. And then there's all those soil organisms which are sort of driving the whole ecological system on the farm. One of the crucial things about soil health that we're doing at the field is making sure that we've always got, as much as possible, living roots in the soil. So plants everywhere, not bare soil if we can help it. That just keeps the system in place. It doesn't really get washed away or damaged by particularly winter weather. So at the field we'd sow cover crops, which is typically a ryegrass and a vetch, which is a member of the pea family. We'd sow those crops into any bare soil we have after harvest in the summer, and that means that the field's covered over winter and it's got living roots in the soil, helping to keep the soil biologically active. Another key thing we've done since we've been renting the land is we planted 1 kilometre of hedgerows around and across the field. We've got a diverse mix of native British species, predominantly hazel and hawthorn, but lots of others in there as well. Some of these hedges are mulched with wood chip and protected with tree guards so they don't get damaged by pests. But there's other areas which I haven't done any of that intervention. I've just left it to see what happens with nature, sort of taking over, and we might lose some of those plants, but it'll be really interesting to see what the sort of nature and ecological response to that planting is, and what benefits.
Just coming up on time.
Sorry, say again.
Just say you're coming up on time.
Okay, thanks. So the other thing then is we've seen a lot of all these things that we're doing at the field has seen us have an increase in lots of mammals and large birds, really, and hares, deers, badgers, foxes, rabbits, pheasants, and they're all regular visitors to the field, and what they're doing is they're indicating that we've got an interesting ecology and the animals want to live there, and they're sort of indicators that we're doing the right thing. My particular favourite, actually, which is an anecdote I often mention, is whenever I'm cutting the grass, I have a kestrel, and it's not my kestrel, obviously, but it comes and it follows me around, and it's because I'm basically exposing, the small mammals, voles, shrews, and things like that, and it likes to feed on them. And we always have this. I feel like there's almost like a bond between me and this bird of prey as it's feeding when I'm doing my work there, and it's sort of indicative of us getting on the right path for having a good, strong ecology at the field, which is what we're trying to do, really. Okay, I'll wrap up there with the story of the kestrel. Thanks.
Thanks, Doug. I'm pleased you managed to share the kestrel story, because I think that's a perfect example of that relationship with nature that all organic growing is trying to sustain. Thanks ever so much.